All right, to the United States now, and 6 days after his performance in a presidential debate with Donald Trump, Joe Biden continues to face questions from within his own party about his ability to lead. Despite growing calls for him to step aside before the next election, the White House today said the president plans to stay the course.
Is the president clear-eyed about what it takes to stay in the race and what it would take for him to drop out?
The president is clear-eyed, and he is staying in the race. I don't have anything else beyond that. He's staying in the race. That is what the president is promised to do. That is what he wants to continue to work on the successes that he's had. His record is unprecedented record, and that is what the president is focused on, continuing to deliver for the American people.
Journalist Kate Fisher is watching developments for us. She joins us now live from Washington. So, Kate, Biden scheduled a meeting for tonight with a group of Democratic governors and some others. What have you heard about that meeting and what might come out of it?
Well, it's underway as we speak. It's been going for about 45 minutes. Around 20 or so Democratic governors from across the country, some virtual, some in person. Of course, it is the eve of the July the 4th holiday, so some of those governors will be wanting to stay firmly in their home states. Also attending will be Kamala Harris, and that is significant because she is she's the leading contender if Joe Biden was to step out of this race to take his place, and she is there as well. We haven't had any snippets leaked out of that meeting so far, but it is clear that these governors want reassurance from Joe Biden that the party is in a stable position and that his candidacy is stable. And if not, they want to make their own judgment by speaking to him face to face. Well, Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, reiterated earlier today that he was going nowhere when she was asked whether he would be dropping out. Absolutely not, was her response. Let's hear from her.
I would not call it an episode. I would call it, we had a bad night, right? It was not his best night. He had a cold, he was jet lagged. You heard directly from the president about this. And when he gets knocked down, he gets right back up. And that's what I would focus on. The president continuing to be very steady and continuing to work for the American people.
So you heard her there acknowledging that, yes, Joe Biden had put in a poor performance and that he was accepting that. And she also said the reasons she gave, a cold and jet lag, were not an excuse, but instead an explanation. This is all damage control being done by the White House.
Okay, so Kate, what would the party's next steps be if Biden stepped aside before or even after the Democratic convention in August?
Well, that could get very messy for obvious reasons. Nationally, the Democrats do not want some kind of messy infight if Joe Biden is to step aside. And we should reiterate that at the moment, he's made it very clear that he will not be doing that. But clearly, momentum is growing. Earlier today, a second sitting Democratic lawmaker called for him to step aside. And if he were to do that, Kamala Harris looks like she would be the leading contender to step into his place. It would certainly be the most straightforward person to take over. Her name is already on the ticket. She has the most name recognition of any of the potential candidates. So more people know who she is, and they could transfer the money they've raised for the Biden-Harris campaign to her name because her name is on all the paperwork. However, there are several other names being floated. Gretchen Whitmer, who is the governor of Michigan, a key swing state that the Democrats must win if they're to retain the White House. And then Gavin Newsom, the Democratic governor of California. But other analysts that we've been listening to today saying that it is unlikely that the party would ignore a black woman vice president in order to give the candidacy to a white man, given that the Democrats desperately need votes of black people and women if they are to win the White House back.
All right, Kate, appreciate the reporting. That is journalist Kate Fisher in Washington. Let's dig in now. Whether Biden should stay or go has divided the Democratic Party and lots of insiders. Let's speak with two of them in Los Angeles. Johanna Maska is a former White House director of press and also a director of press advance for Barack Obama. She's now CEO of Global Situation Room, a consulting group, and the host of Press Advance podcast. And in Cleveland, Ohio tonight, Antoine Seawright is a Democratic strategist. Thank you both for joining us. So we heard from the press secretary there. This was a bad night. He had a cold. He was jet lagged. Is that going to be enough to calm concerns? Johanna, I'll start with you.
No. And if he has a cold, don't take him to Waffle House afterwards. Look, the debate in and of itself isn't necessarily the issue. We've had President Trump for a year and a half, more than, talk about President Biden not being able to articulate his thoughts, not being able to put together a sentence. President Trump lies about absolutely everything. But on that night, at that debate, when Joe Biden struggled with those things, it gave President Trump a credibility that he does not deserve. The truth is we are entering into a terrible election cycle with the choice of a convicted felon who couldn't be a teacher in most of our states on the ballot. We have to be able to articulate our vision for America and to stand against Donald Trump. And unfortunately, at that debate, President Biden's credibility was so hit that, look, could he win? Maybe. There's lots of us who are going to vote for anyone over Donald Trump. But we are rolling the dice when we have so many excellent leaders in our party who all we need to do, like Nancy Pelosi to Hakeem Jeffries, all we would need to do is pass the torch, give the microphone to these leaders, let them shine.
Okay, Antoine, why not? Why not do exactly what Johanna said? And at this point, it's pretty late in the game, but at this point, why not change course?
First of all, let's acknowledge the president did not have the best night if you're measuring it from a cosmetic standpoint. But if you're measuring it from a pure substance standpoint, I think the president had a great night compared to the convicted felon on the stage who just regurgitated lies for 90 minutes by and large. Secondarily, when you open up this segment, you talk about party insiders and what they have to say. But here's what I know. Elections are decided by party outsiders, those who show up at the ballot box, by the American people, not those on K Street, but those on my street. I have been traveling this country, speaking to voters, directly to African-American voters, the most loyal and dedicated voting bloc in a generation, the ones who took Joe Biden both over the edge in the primary and gave him the bandwidth he needed to win a general election. No change. In fact, they're even locking stronger for President Biden. I think that matters. Look, I'm not here to diss anyone's feelings because, look, I think politics, much like other relationships, it's okay for disagreements to happen. It's okay for people to express themselves. No way, shape, or form should we dismiss people's expressions or how they feel. However, we've seen what happened when we are not lockstep as a party. We are still feeling the results of the 2016 election when some of the same residue I'm hearing and I'm seeing now from quote unquote inside party officials lingered in that election. As a result, not only did Trumpism find its way in this country in a wider, deeper way, but 3 right-wing activists now serve on our nation's highest court for lifetime appointments. So we cannot afford to be united. There is a way for younger voices in our party to have the microphone and tell the good news about what Joe Biden has done historically for the past 3.5+ years. They can find their voice, they can do that, and they can help rally the troops. But we need to be lockstep with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris going into November.
Okay, Joanna, I'm going to get you to respond to all of that, but also, let me just put this to you. With Joe Biden as the nominee, as the candidate, is there a path to victory still? Do you see that?
Yeah. First, 2016, I thought Trump would win. And it wasn't because because the Democrats weren't united. It was because Hillary Clinton was portraying an arrogance that I know grew up in Galesburg, Illinois, not far from Ohio. It does not resonate with the American people. We cannot afford to be arrogant either. Look, the election right now, we are in a situation where I can understand people wanting to be loyal, and yet the American people saw that debate. They saw the issues there, and then they start to believe Donald Trump again, and they forget that he ignored a global pandemic to the point where we don't have an investigation of what happened in Wuhan because he just ignored it. We had our schools closed down. We had everyone closed down. We had to pull ourselves out. Trump has added twice as much to the national debt. So he does not deserve to be president of the United States again. The reason I love the Democratic Party is actually I have befriended a lot of the women who have turned against Trump because they saw him. They saw that he's unfit for office, and they are worried that in a second term, he is going to prosecute them. Joe Biden and the Democrats will never prosecute me. I can say my truth. And that is what is rich about the Democratic Party. We can also unite in November for our candidate. Can Joe Biden win? There are many people who will vote for absolutely anything over Donald Trump, and I don't blame them because they should. But I just believe in my heart of hearts, again like 2016, when I saw the writing on the wall and I thought that Trump could win, I see that same writing this time, and I just don't believe that I should remain silent.
Oh, okay, Antoine.
Well,
let me just read you something, and then we'll get you to respond to Johanna as well. But this is from the Boston Globe's editorial board, which is calling for Biden to step aside, along, I might add, with the New York Times. Serious questions are now in play about his ability to compete with the arduous work of being the leader of the free world. Can he negotiate with a hostile Republican Congress, dangerous foreign powers, or even fractious rivals within his own cabinet? The nation's confidence has been shaken. He did lose his train of thought there. He is not getting younger. Why aren't these legitimate concerns about the next president of the United States?
Well, maybe I'm living in some dream world or some bunker that no one else is living in. But might I add, Joe Biden brought us through the worst pandemic that most of us have seen in our lifetime. Might I add, Joe Biden has been the most accomplished president when it comes to legislative wins, by the way, bipartisan legislative wins by and large, than any other president, arguably in the history of this country. Maybe I'm living in a bunker about the accomplishments of this president. Maybe I'm living in a bunker about his vision for the next 4 years. Look, I'm not interested in the polar coaster ride that some want to take us on about polls. Certainly not interested in this idea that an election should be predicated or decided by a 90-minute debate performance in June. The issues this country faced and the existential threat that Donald Trump was true before this debate. It remains true, probably arguably more now, after this right-wing activist court ruled just days ago. So anyone saying anything other than a united Democratic front, in my opinion, are part of the problem. It's not just Joe Biden who's on the ballot and Kamala Harris. The chance to have a black man as Speaker of House on the ballot, a woman being the majority leader in the Congress on the ballot, a Latino as the majority whip on the ballot, Ted Lieu, a friend from California, as the first Asian American Pacific Islander leader of our caucus on the ballot, Joe Neguse, a 40-year-old black man from Colorado on the ballot, 2 black women in the United States Senate on the ballot, not to mention court races and so forth, and ballot initiatives all across the country. So Democrats need to show up and be united. I think it's a big comparison to a convicted felon having his party rallying around him in a united way, yet we're talking about a 90-minute debate performance on our side. It's true the narrative, Republicans fall in line, Democrats fall in love.
The president was out today. He has a meeting tonight. He is going to be speaking with George Stephanopoulos, doing an interview on Friday, and then we'll be, at some rallies in swing states. Johanna, let me put this to you, and then Anton will give you the last word. If he is on the stage at the convention in August, do you see this being a united party, the party getting around Joe Biden, or has this become too contentious of an issue that the divide is too big right now?
We're supposed to see another debate after the conventions. You said it before, and I don't think there's been an answer on, people don't get any younger. The one thing we can bet on is we're all perishable fruit. Joe Biden has an amazing legacy, and I agree, Anton, on that legacy is excellent. He deserves to be remembered for that legacy and for doing much like what Nancy Pelosi did and passing the torch to someone who's so talented like Hakeem Jeffries, who can continue to carry us forward.
Is there any worry that you have, Antoine, last word to you, that if the party does not change directions, as Johanna worries, that Donald Trump will be the next president because of voters' concerns about Biden's age and mental capabilities right now?
I'm never worried about the concerns of those who are inside the Beltway, inside the
voters.
Again, elections are decided on our street, not on K Street. And when you talk to people on our street, when you talk to voters, they understand what's at stake, in particular Black voters who will have a big say-so in this election. We understand what's at stake. And so at the end of the day, Joe Biden is our nominee because voters showed up in primaries all across the country to make he and Kamala Harris our Democratic nominees. We need to rally behind that. We do not need to dismiss the voices of the people like the Republican Party wants to do. We need to unite behind our leaders. And at the end of the day, by the time we get through this marathon process called an election and we get to November, we need to show the rest of the world that we are a united party and there's nothing the Republican extremists can do about it.
All right, both good conversation. We'll have you back again in the days ahead. Johanna Maska, former White House Director of Press Advance for President Barack Obama, and Antoine Seawright, a Democratic strategist.